Am I late? What did I miss? Hi, Mike. Poppy, g'day. Don't end up with a complex, Mike. Oh my God. Hey, JB. Ted, g'day. Western Australia represent there. Mark, hello. Craig, Glenn, David, hello. Maddie, g'day. Nakla, hello. Dennis, hello. Nigel, hello. G'day, Wazza. Rustanox, hello. So, what's happening? Not very much, to be honest. I've been at work today and half of yesterday, and I spent yesterday afternoon putting this thing apart and putting it back together. How amazingly in frame we are here. Did you like that? There we go. Paint's nearly dry, I can touch it. Hey Dan, good to see you. Jim Arnott. Let's not get started on Australia Post. It's bag out Australia Post week here. Stephen Lang, Shark River Machine, g'day. First up, I believe Stan's website for buying raffle tickets for the Summer Bash next weekend is still open. I meant to mention it last week, but if you want to make a donation to a pretty awesome cause, which is Summer Bash, and it's happening again next year, you totally should go and buy raffle tickets, and there's some good prizes to be won too, so I think it's still open. It was supposed to be shut as of today, but I had a look at the website 10 minutes ago and it looked like it still works. So Stephen Lang says raffle tickets are closed. Maybe he hasn't changed the website. I'm just saying that I looked at it 10 minutes ago and it was still open. Okay, maybe it just didn't refresh properly. Oh yeah, take that back. I bought tickets anyway, so I'm pretty excited about that. And to be honest, even if I don't win anything or have anything that's capable of being shipped back to Australia, still in front on that one in so many ways. And appreciate all my American friends for making that possible and making it an awesome event. Miss seeing you this year, and I'm really feeling like, I'm going to take advantage of the live stream on Saturdays, Friday, Saturday, but my t-shirt should be here by then, I hope. Russell Dog, good day, another South African. Only USA. Yeah, we can organise shipping. If you win that meal, we could get it back here, Jim. Promise. But we'll see. I'll probably donate it to someone who needs it if it's anything big. If it's anything small, I'm just going to pay postage and say, hey, look, we're doing okay. So watch out, everyone. I'm going to win everything. Hey, g'day. Dan Shed. Hey, Fridge. G'day. Look Creations. Hope you sorted out your raffle too. See, there's the Miller sign, so don't worry about it. Yeah, good luck with that. I'm still here, Ted. Are you still here? Can you hear me? Everyone can hear me? The mill's mine. And I'll work out who to send it to. Look, to be honest, that community, I've done so well out of that community over the last 4 or 5 years. And there's still ongoing, and for that I thank people. I had a direct message from Steve Barton at Solid Rock Machine Shop the other week asking for postal details. So when that turns up, I've got a shipping number, but when that turns up, there'll be something to show everyone. I'm really looking forward to that. I've done it amazingly well out of that community. I don't mind giving a fair bit back. Paul, Necklace Workshop, good day. Speaking of which, got a letter today, yesterday. Sending milling machines, this is the address. This is Royal Mail, and I didn't check. This is dated, is it the 8th or the 3rd? It's dated the 8th of August, which is the same day that my fittings left for this engine from Stewart Models. Hopefully they're not far away, because this made it. So sometimes the post service can work. But I got a letter from an Necklace Workshop. If you want to see his address, but that's really nice, Paul. Nice letter. And a couple of stickers. I haven't put them on the board yet, but go and check him out. There's some stickers there. Rustnox, no, I didn't receive your stickers. Sorry, hasn't turned up. Mail's all over the show, so I'm not despairing about anything at the moment except the 2 taps for the head on here and some wiring from the Western Australia that needs to be here. What else? There's some pipe fittings for the muffler which I haven't seen yet either, so at this point, yeah, I don't have a lot of stress about the mail system because it's crap. It's really bad. Oh, and a bit of bronze for another project, but we'll get onto that in a minute. Project update. This is back together, right? Hey Cam, good to see ya. Great video on your trolley the other day. Interested to see the crane when you build it. It's pretty cool, Cam. Good to see update from you. I haven't watched a lot of YouTube. I'm sorry. If there's videos, everyone's got videos that I haven't watched. To be honest, I've been pulling this apart and putting it back together for the last week, and that's all I've done in my time off, and most nights, to be honest, which is slack as. But I've got it somewhere near. Still got a little bit of an exhaust valve leak, which I'm not happy with, but it's probably not bad enough to worry about. I don't know enough about these things to know whether it's going to make a difference to it. I think it probably will ultimately, but how much of a difference on this engine, I don't know. Thanks, Cam. I did it specially for you. This is processed blue, which I love. It's sort of a greeny blue, petrol blue. You can't really see it particularly well on this camera, but it's sort of an oil petrol blue, and I'm going to finish this and do the radiator in the same colour. Etc, etc, etc. So it should look really good. Has it got enough valve clearance? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, even with the push right off, it's still got a bit of back pressure on the exhaust manifold, which is blow pie, I guess. And I've had a couple of attempts at it. I've had this head off probably 6 times since I cut the gasket and put it on, and I've been messing around with it, and it's not too shabby, but I'm a bit of a lost at the moment. But apart from that, we've got it making all the right noises, which I really like. This is all. I don't know if it's got enough compression there or not. Certainly got some blowback there at the moment. Give it a couple of spins and it fixes it, but I don't know whether that's a good thing or not. We might have to think about fitting another set of rings if it hasn't got enough. A touch with the oil can will probably make a huge difference. But I don't know if that's enough, really. Let's try this. Yeah, see, that's probably got enough there to run. I don't know. I really don't know. No real point of reference on that. Wazza says it will run great. We'll see. I don't know if it's got enough compression. If you turn it over slow, it turns over pretty easy. If you give it a bit more, it's certainly got enough to pull you up. But at that speed, it hasn't got a lot. So I don't know. I'm suspicious that the rings, now the high spots are worn off them, are probably a bit loose and there's a bit much end gap on them and they're leaking past. I do have another pair set which I could set up with 0 end gap and see if that fixes it. That's probably worth messing around with. Hey, Matt. This is making the right noise on the intake valve, which I really like. If you can hear that, it sounds like a sick duck. That's what it should sound like, I think. It's time somewhere near right. I want to print out a chart and just make sure it is right. It should be about exhaust valve should open there at about 35 before and close there at about a bit after, and then this should suck in comfortably, and then we should have a compression stroke, and then a power stroke, and the exhaust valve's open. So hopefully it's timed right, I think. Hey Tommy, good to see you. Rings will bed in there. Maybe they're bed out, mate. That's what I'm thinking. Be careful with 0 end gap. Yeah, I reckon once they wear in, they'll be. There's more compression on the open side with the amount of blowback I get. Okay. We'll see. We'll see. I'm suspicious that this needs a new set of rings in it because I think now the high spots are worn off the rings that there's too much end gap, but it's got about 4 or 5 thou, which I think is too much. And I think it would be better with a new set of rings in it, but we'll see if it'll run first. There we go. On CNC, hey, there's only one way to find out. We need this valve for here, which is coming from Stewart Models. And it shouldn't be far away. If it's not here by the end of the week, we'll fudge something up. Got a regulator, which should work on that propane bottle over there, with a needle valve. And this is 2.75 kPa, which is about, oh gosh, you do the maths, I think it's less than 4 psi. And there's another tap on here to limit it here, so hopefully that should provide the right sort of gas to get it running, from what I've heard. If we, sorry, I bumped the camera, but if we close this port, you can hear that valve pop as well. So that's working. Probably more than a few thousands, I don't know. This needs bolting down on a base of some sort so it doesn't run all over the place, because it's pretty top heavy, to be honest. And if you've heard videos of it turning over, most of it is because this base is running. That's where the knock is. So it needs a decent base made for it. It's sort of a work in progress with electrics in underneath, and some switches and things, and some handles to carry it. I was going to sit this on a sheet of stainless steel. I don't think that's a particularly good idea, because I've got to run terminals up through here. I've got some old electrical books with some diagrams of terminals or posts. And if it's on a sheet of stainless steel, it's a bit harder to insulate them, and I don't like that. I can make some top hat sections out of nylon or borax or something, might work. But I'd like something that's easy to clean up the oil, because this thing's going to be messy. Two rings on the piston, Ted, and I'm suspicious they're a bit sloppy. Anyway, it might run. So I've got to run a couple of terminals on the back and another one for the spark at the front. Got to find a spark plug terminal, and someone said spade terminal, which sort of works, but I think I'm probably just going to make something up out of brass. Where does that bring us? A radiator. And if we have like an evaporation screen radiator, which I really looking forward or would like to do, really like to do that. It's sort of period, and it looks good, and it's easy to keep the rust out of, I guess, and doesn't use a whole lot of water and all that sort of stuff. But it needs a pump. And I got an email. I've been corresponding with Ben at EJ Winter down in Bathurst in Sydney. And he's got listed this. Hey, Richard. I'm going to show these drawings. You can't read anything on them anyway. I can't read anything on them from here. But this is the drawing for the P12 OB Bolton pump, which is sort of the same sort of time period. And this is what we're probably going to build. It's fairly basic, like it's toy-like nearly. I don't know. It's pretty basic. There's no gland here on the bearing, so they've all got to be a pretty reasonable fit. Whether I put a seal on there, I don't know. I think that might be overkill. We could probably do that without too many issues to stop the water leaking out. It's got offset bore in here and a 3-blade impeller that's sort of pretty basic and doesn't really show the entire workings, because I think as it's drawn it probably wouldn't work. But it's not that difficult to get to work. It's 2 3/8 inch diameter, and this base is 2.5 by 2 inches. I modelled this up on CAD. If my 3D printer situation's fixed by the time I get to it, I'm probably going to 3D print this and see how it looks. see if everything lines up before I start work on it. But otherwise, I'm probably just going to make one. So that's a little pump. The castings are available if anyone asks, and I know they all do. But they're fairly expensive because a couple of them have got some fancy cores in them that are a little bit tricky. So probably going to fabricate this, I think. Cork gasket on here. Someone asked the question. Is 0.8mm cork on here, cut to size and shape and screwed down nice and tight. This is Teflon or PTFE. I really like this because I can take this off and put it on as many times as I like, and it still seals just really easy. So I really like that. Hopefully it's heat resistant enough for this engine, but don't believe it's going to get that hot. If it melts, we're probably doing something wrong. So there we go. Yeah, how slack is that? 39 watching, 38, 39 watching, and 8 likes. That's pretty poor, Craig. But thanks, everyone. So this needs a base. It needs a bit more work. We've messed around with this valve here. I don't know if you can see that. It's just got a washer on there. The little top hat piece really wasn't working, which is that, which was on here. It was sticking the valve for some reason. Not sure why, but when I changed that to a washer and found a nice light screw, a nice light spring, that's fixed that. I might even make, this is a bit dodgy, but I think that's probably pretty good. At least it's using all the spring now. This valve I think is really good. This one here could be leaking a little bit. I've got probably cold tappet clearance here is probably 5 thou, which probably is all it needs, I think. So thanks guys. Not that I think it makes a lot of difference, to be honest. That's what I've been doing most of this week. So I've been pulling this apart, putting it back together and painting it and making it run, or making it so that it might run. And I spent probably 2 hours messing around with this spring to get it so that it rattles when you're on the intake stroke. And the other thing too with this compression is that it probably hasn't got as much compression. The compression ratio isn't as high as I think it is, probably. With the gasket will make a difference, and the valves will make a difference, and all that stuff. So maybe, and the spark plug port makes a big difference as well. Maybe it's only about 4 or 5 to 1, which is probably enough too. Thanks, Warren. Obviously a Ford mechanic there. So there's still a fitting to go in here, which goes on this pipe. It needs to be bolted down to a board of some sort, and it needs some electrics hooking up. But apart from that, it should run. I think we're done. I haven't put the guard on yet. I've painted it, but only about half done. I think it's dry. I'm going to have a look. Yeah, it could do with another coat, to be honest. I've sanded it back. So that goes on there too. It's not on yet. It sort of evens the look of it out a bit too. Take care, Matt. Good to see you. Take care. So there we go. That's the engine update. Let's look at some tools. Bit sick of that. I'm over it. I'm too scared to run it in case it doesn't go and I've got to rebuild it. So totally over that engine. Might by the weekend I might be ready to have another play with it, but at this point I'm sort of thinking I think it needs a I'm black now because of it. It's always the way. I have to find a rag for that. I'm thinking it needs a blue stripe on here, probably just one on here it'll get, and probably a square around the top and a stripe this way, something like that. It would be fairly basic and probably only on the front. Whether it has one down there or whether I put one around the top there, I don't know. I think that's a bit overdone. I think we're just going to run a stripe across there. Probably a stripe around the top and probably a blue stripe here. We'll see. Really impractical paint colour, just so you know, but too late now. Picked this up this week. Been looking for a while for a small scribing block. This is obviously shop made. It's pretty clever design actually. It's really quite smart. It's adjustable. The only problem with it is that it might need some mods, is that it's only adjustable when this is loose. So we're looking into that. It's quite a well-made thing. It really is. It's stamped with SF Bussy underneath. He did a nice job of it, but he didn't do much of a job of stamping his name, to be honest. If someone recognises it as being a shop bought thing, let me know, but I think probably it's something that SF Bussy himself made up, and it's quite a clever little design. Take care, Mats. So this is, it's going to get a bit of a clean up and we'll see what it actually needs. I'm not sure about this design, but I really wanted a little scribing block about that size because it's more useful for this sort of work than something that's sort of 18 inches tall. And most of the time you're just marking off a ruler or off a surface or something like that anyway, so it really doesn't need any calibration on it. It just needs a scribe needle and some sort of repeatability in a flat surface. So it's tiny, but pretty useful for marking out centres of something like this. So picked that up. Was fairly cheap, but I couldn't resist it. Now, dredging about the ancient history here. go back there a bit further probably. There. This box, right, as you can see, what's in your box 2016, which was an amazing year because I actually won. And wasn't really on the whole, even on the spectrum. I put in a pretty scary video because you've got to be in things to win them, and I actually won. So it was pretty amazing, actually. Still got a certificate up on the wall that says I'm voted worthy, which is from Keith Fenner, which is really, really nice. But someone made these, and I was lucky enough to get it. Until now, I haven't been able to use it. Hey, John Edwards. Let's have a look here, though. Put that, rest that against. Yeah, it's resting against that pipe. That won't hurt. This is a collet holder for 5C and R8 collets. I haven't had it either yet because I haven't had a big mill, but this is a beautiful machine. A beautiful tool. So that goes in there. It's got a locking ring and a couple of C spanners to, basically it's a holder for a 5C collet for doing handwork. And pretty cool design. And I've used it 2 or 3 times since I've had 5C collets, which come with my grinder. So, gosh, the competition was strong. I must have actually, JB, I must have actually done something right. I don't know how that happened. But I really wasn't on the cards to win at all. But this is one of the very cool shop-made tools that was sent across. And I don't know who made this at this late stage. I imagine that I sent him an email when I got it to say thank you. And this is the first time 4 years later, nearly 5 years later, that I'm actually using it. So there's also one for R8 collets, which has a basically a lock bolt and a captive lock bolt with an Allen key for R8 collets and a spanner. So pretty awesome thing. I just, for the past couple of weeks, I thought I ought to get that out and show people because I do use it occasionally. And someone might be interested in that if you're looking for a project idea. That's a pretty cool design, really. It's got a proper stud in there, or a pin in there to stop the collet turning. And 2 C spanners to do it up tight. If you're doing freehand work, pretty useful thing. Anyway, with that, everyone's gone silent. The other exciting thing about it is that it doesn't always close. Let's touch on that. Touching here somewhere, one of these ends. We'll have a look. I broke it. Yeah, it just needed to be. Just needed to be shook a bit. That's all. There we go. But that's pretty awesome. What else? No real feedback on the subscriber counter yet. I haven't given up on it entirely, but I haven't had time to look at it. Maybe this next weekend when I'm sitting down in front of the computer watching the Summer Bash live feed. Maybe I have time to do and have a look at that. So there we go. Other news. What's other news? Place looks like a bomb's hit it. I actually spent an hour putting stuff away here tonight, which is long overdue, because I've been just working at getting this back together and getting it so that it looks like it might run. Don't know. We'll see. It's not going to flood and fill up with petrol anyway, because it's gas. So probably that's not going to wash the oil out. We'll see. YouTube aren't even sending out emails anymore. You've got to check your subscribers list. That's fair enough. Or you've got to actually put the app on your phone and get in notifications like the 21st century does. I get triggered when I hear that because it means I've actually got to check my emails, and I'm not very good at that. So I haven't looked at a YouTube notification in my YouTube notifications folder on Gmail for probably 5 years, to be honest. And I see notifications, but I don't. It's a bit rough if that's how you receive them, but there are other ways to do it, and I guess that's probably why they've sort of superseded that. It's the main way most people did things, but it's sometimes ago. D-bit grinder's good. It's an awesome thing. It gets a bit of use. So I'm not as proficient about it with it as some people. I see Stefan post an Instagram story about making counterbores from scratch. Really, I don't want to know about that sort of thing. But pretty smart and pretty nice, and I hope he does a video on them. When does more happen with my loco? When I get this thing running, I want to finish that tender. I've got everything I need to change the bolts over and put the bolts in it, and then machine the wheels and the axles and axle boxes. That's sort of the next major project. I'm pretty excited about that. And it might even happen some this weekend, but I don't imagine I'm going to do a whole lot this weekend. Do some chores and watch some Summer Bash. And I might try and get this running. We'll see. If this runs, I'll be enthusiastic about it again, and we can spend some time and actually carry on and make the rest of the parts. There are those that think green is only colour for a Stewart engine. Yeah, I don't believe that. I like nice bold colours, and I like colours that jump out, and I like colours that I like my engines to be distinguishable between, they all look a bit different, which is cool. Seriously thinking I'm going to get some stickers made with this on it. It's my next Patreon project, season 2. The last one was the season 1 project. So I might just do that at some point. And then we'll have a sticker mail out. But I'm pretty hopeless with that. So don't lose any sleep. And we'll get it finished first. But it'd be nice to have a couple of different stickers, and a bit of a series of them would be cool. So if you get my sticker, leave room for another one. And just stick it over the top anyway. Mark Foster, that is a really good question, and one that I've been reluctant to answer because it doesn't have one. This is really, it's not the first Stuart Turner engine. It was the first Stuart Turner kit engine, put it that way. The half horsepower was sort of concurrent with it, and that was a much bigger engine, but it wasn't really a kit. It came as sort of a mechanics kit that was ready to assemble for shipping. The two strokes, like the marine engines they were making in 1914, 1915, up to the 50s, they made those in various different guises. But this was the first real kit petrol engine, and it was fairly basic, as you can see. It was also the only pushrod one that they made in a horizontal. The half horsepower had a rocker on this side, which was really nice to design thing, but it was a job of work, serious Stuart Turner, like by the bits and bolted up job. It was pretty good sort of an engine. This is the most basic one. The next one that came along was that 600, which was a side shaft. Really a fairly smart engine. And then the 800, which was a whole nother ball game. The 800 was a pretty classy, nice engine, actually. It was as good as anything available in England at the time for a horizontal stationary engine. This 400 was the very, very basic model. It come from the factory with the bore machined, and this front face machined, and the main bearings machined. The rest of the bits you put on yourself. So none of these engines, even the Progress or even the Stuart number 1 and the number 7 and the number 9 and the number 4, whatever, the 10, when they come out, none of these engines in the first few years, up until probably until nearly Second World War, come out as fully unmachined kits, because average model engineer workshops just weren't capable of boring cylinders and aligning bearings and things like that. If you had a treadle lathe and probably a bandsaw and a couple of chisels and a file, you weren't going to be machining this. And even on my gear here and some borrowed equipment that was pretty high, pretty decent, I struggled with this a lot. So that was the story. Does it need a governor? I don't know. If you advance the spark enough so that it runs, probably it does. If you retard the spark a bit, then probably it doesn't. But with a retarded spark, it's going to run hot too. So for it to run comfortably and efficiently, it wants to be just before top dead center. And I don't know if it's going to race or not at that. I really don't. It's got adjustable spark, but I haven't got a clue. If it does, we'll work out a governor. The half horsepower had a hit and miss and a throttle governor option. The 800 had was a throttle governor option on the side shaft. There are options on it, so we can't really govern we could put a valve here and govern the gas pressure. I don't think that's particularly successful, because once it gets a mouthful of gas, it's just going to run until it goes. So I don't know how that works. We could put a stopper on the push rod and that'd work. Just with the governor and a drop-in arm. That might work really well. We could just retard the spark a bit until it only runs at a couple hundred RPM. Yeah, Richard was right, and I did see that comment, and he's removed it now. You can't really live stream that amount of swearing. I'm not sure it's going to run. I'm about 30% sure, and the rest will be total surprise if it runs the way it stands there now. I think timing will govern it enough, and that was all that was ever expected. If I was going to run it, there's been some thought about this, right? And I'm going to pretend I haven't been thinking about it because I need another project like a hole in the head. But Stuart Turner made a lot of really cool generators and dynamos in this time period. I don't believe without a governor that this would be capable of running something like that to produce any decent electricity. So that's sort of out. At some point, a project for this to run will happen. I'm not sure when. If it needs a governor, it'll probably get a hit and miss one because I believe that the half horse, which is the sort of the same engine that was built by Stuart Turner as an industrial engine that they actually marketed, had a hit and miss governor, and all it needs here is basically a flyball governor and a lever that kicks in behind this flywheel and holds it behind here and holds the exhaust valve open. All it needs is a collar and a little foot that drops in, and when it kicks open, it drops in, and when it slows down, it lifts out. It's pretty straightforward and simple, and that would change the feel and the look of it, but it would run nice with a hit and miss governor. And we could put like I don't know, we could probably pull a Stuart number 9 or a number 1 governor or something out and adapt something like that. But yeah, you could. It will to a certain extent, I think. I don't know how much limiting the gas flow is going to change the speed of the thing, to be honest. You're not really changing the mixture on it. You're only changing the gas. So I think at a couple of hundred revs, there's still going to be enough gas there to keep it firing. And it only uses what it needs from this chamber inside here. So I know that a gas engine needs to run a lot richer than a petrol or a liquid fuel engine, but I'm not sure about any of this yet. This is all, let's get it firing first. It would be, if it races, we'll put a hit and miss governor on it, and I've got thoughts about that, but at this point, I don't think it's actually going to be a thing. Take care, Dennis. Thanks for dropping by. Good to see you. Might see you in the live stream on the weekend. I don't know if it's ever going to see any load. I really don't know what constitutes a load. It's got a little pump go here. I'm going to bolt that on the table here with it, run off this groove onto the pump with the pump on the outside, then pumps from the tank through here, and then the overflow runs back down through the tank. So that pump, I don't think, is going to make a lot of difference to the way the thing runs. There's plenty of horsepower for that. I don't know what I'm going to make it run, or if I'm going to do a project to make it run, or what. I would love to do another dynamo at some point. I did make one. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that. It's a few years back. It's an interesting project, I guess. I'll grab it. This was what my take on a 1920s, 1930s toy motor, rather than a dynamo. I would, if I was making another one of these, address it quite a lot differently. Stephen, no, there's no air intake control really. It's just this ball, and we could change the weight of the ball, probably might make a difference. It's on demand, basically. We'll see. We'll see. You now know as much as me. This is a project I built a long time ago. I did a series on it. I don't know if anyone even watched it, but it was a pretty good fun build. It's got a proper commutator and like a adjustable arm here for timing. It's missing a thumb wheel. Probably should sit down and make another one of those while I'm doing thumb wheels for this. It was a fairly steep learning curve. I made a casting for that, and I made a couple of magnets. This ended up having rare earth magnets in here. I don't know, Russell, but I don't think it would be that complicated, really, because it's only really a model engine, even in full size. Now, this dynamo is kind of cool. The problem with it is that when I finished it, it doesn't run as a dynamo. It runs as an electric motor quite nicely, and you get that amazing like vintage Meccano ozone smell that only toy electric motors have, and it runs pretty smooth and pretty nice. It's not self-starting because it's only a 2-pole rotor, but and also it was a bit of a learning curve. I learned a lot about this. I wound my own coil. I machined the rotor and got it all balanced. I machined this and got the magnet spacing all right. I made brushes out of brass, and I made a commutator and cast it in resin and split it. And I made a casting. This is one of the first projects I ever made a casting for. So it's kind of awesome. And it runs great as an electric motor. It doesn't run as a dynamo. At 2,500 revs, it produces about nothing, really. And that's for a few reasons. One is that there's too much gap here on the ends. For two, the steel's the wrong steel to really carry the electrical flux properly. There's probably not enough windings on the armature, and it's not quite set up properly. This was a bit of a project. And I learned a lot. But there's still so much to learn because there's nothing written about this. It's like, I read something recently that the Romans never wrote down that they used seawater for cement when they were making concrete. And everyone just assumed that that meant seawater because no one used fresh water for things like that. And years later, people are trying to piece together the pieces on how the Romans made cement that lasted for 2,000 years, and we can't. And someone sort of awesomely discovers that they use seawater, not fresh water, and that was the secret. And no one really knew that because no one bothered to write it down because everyone knew it. You know, you wouldn't use fresh water for concrete. That's just plain sense, you know. But the same with all these dynamos and electric motors and things. From the turn of the century through to about 1925, 1930, there's so many projects in Model Engineer and other magazines on building basically dynamos of different patterns and pretty cutting edge stuff. I guess like 3D printers are today, or like laser cutters are today. You know, they were the dynamos of the time, and people were messing with projects like this and projects like this. And in 2020, we've got no information about this. We don't know what makes it steel. We don't know where to get wrought iron for armatures. We don't know really very much at all. We don't know about the right sort of shellac, or we don't know how to varnish stuff. We don't know a whole lot of things about projects like this. And the more you look into books and things like that on making a working dynamo, the more you realise you really don't know, and the parts and stock are not available. Anyway, end of rant. But this is something that interests me a lot. I think this is awesome. This is I guess an electric motor like you would find in a Meccano set or in a vintage fan. But it doesn't work as a dynamo because of some design elements that just don't work. And if I could find some wrought iron for the magnet, I would have used that, and it probably would have been much better than what I ended up with. Dan's right. Fridge is right. There's stuff that isn't in books and you don't know about, and it's just stupid because this is a whole science that's been lost. And it hasn't been lost, but we have sintering technology, so nobody makes wrought iron magnets anymore. Like homemade permanent magnets. You cite a couple of books, everyone, on how to make permanent magnets. There's nothing out there. Like there's this huge gap on the internet that people don't know how to make permanent magnets. And if you break it down even further than that to people, what do you use to make permanent magnets? And the answer is probably wrought iron. They've got the best flux paths and the best thing for permanent magnets before sintering. But realistically, where do you go where do you get a bit of wrought iron bar? It's almost impossible. And sintered steels are cool, cast steels are cool. A lot of these were cast iron, and that's all okay too, but that's a bit of a science as well. And you can't bend cast steel, so there's a lot of science lost in these, and it interests me a lot. And I'd love to make sort of a 2/3 bigger, probably Manchester pattern dynamo with the coils on the side and the top and bottom armature and a nice cast base and a decent like commutator setup would be an awesome partner for this. But at this point, I don't really know enough about doing it to make it worthwhile for the amount of time I would put in it. Yeah, we really don't understand a lot of things. Like we assume it works and we know how it works and we know what it does, but why does a magnet? Why do some steels magnetize and some don't? Why do some steels keep magnetism and some don't? Why do paths and eddy paths and things like that follow through around corners and things in the way that they do and the way that they don't? There's a crazy amount of information about these, and I'm not an electrician, and electricity sort of scares me a bit. You all know that. So this was a learning curve for me. I'd love to make another one. I would probably use a cast iron magnet or find a sintered magnet, I guess, which is the modern way of making them. There's pressed powder technology. But, I mean, I guess you could find a blacksmith and like beat up a bit of iron and make wrought iron and do it that way. But if anyone wants to find me some magnet steel, that's awesome. So that's another project I built. It's kind of cool and it runs on a 9-volt battery pretty nicely, actually. It could do with a run at some point. I haven't got a battery for it. But it'll, on a lantern battery, it runs pretty good and it's got a fair bit of power, actually. It's not self-starting. Probably if I made a self-starting electric motor, it wants a 3-pole armature so that it is self-starting. But it didn't get that. So it was very, very basic. But I wanted to do something that was like 1930s, 1920s toy, Meccano toy magnet motor. Grinding machines create magnets. Magnetic chucks or otherwise, I find that I'm having a real magnetism problem since I got the D-bit grinder. So I'm sort of working on that. Thanks, Tim. I can't find any information about that really. As far as, yes, that is a theory and it's probably how it was done. I don't have any formulas for that. You can't buy a bit of steel that is of this formula for making magnets. No one makes that anymore. So anyway, that's a fun project. If you're looking for something to do and you're really bored, you can go back and watch those videos. I think they're crap, to be honest. But it was a pretty awesome build and I learned a lot from it. Wouldn't mind doing another one, but it'd be a little bit bigger, a little bit more fancy. It'd have like roller bearings in it, and it'd have probably a gram ring or something armature rather than this, so it is self-starting and self-actuating, and probably a coil on the magnet. But it's a seriously big project. This was big enough. Anyway, what are we? We're over an hour here. That's probably enough for anyone. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Really appreciate that. Go and check out some of these guys that have got channels that are awesome. Shouldn't have to keep saying this, but you can't all be subscribed to some of you little guys. Big channels with small subscriber counts is crazy. Like Knackler's Workshop, should go and check him out. I'm disappointed if he doesn't get 10 new subscribers watching this video, right? Dan Shed, go and check him out. He should get 10 more subscribers. Might make him put up another video. Ted Rosa, go and check him out. Rustanox, that's a mighty big channel, and if you're not subscribed to Rustanox, there's something wrong. Tommy Gun Machining, he's past a lot of us, but that's a good channel too. Lots of cool stuff there. Craig's Workshop, good channel. Growing Matty's Workshop's also a good channel. I'm just scrolling through. Cutting Tool Designers, another good channel. He's gone, but you should go and check him out. Who am I missing? Poppy's Workshop, you should go and check him out. He's starting some project videos and things. That's kind of cool. He's got some watchable content. So I'm sure there's 1,000 others that I've missed. So there you go. What else? Probably next week I'm going to have this thing running. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes, but I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't either. If it's all in bits again in the bench next week, you'll know that you have to tread gently around here because I'm going to be very upset. But I'll try and hide most of my grief. And to be honest, I'm too scared to try it and see if it works in case it does, or in case it doesn't. I really, it's like Schrodinger's cat. It's kind of cool at the moment, but it might change by the time I open the box. Matty needs to get a video out or he'll start losing subs. I can't believe he hasn't got a project at the moment. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Malcolm. Thanks, Ted. It's all happening. I'm off for work tomorrow. I'm probably going to go and climb into bed now because I've sort of had enough. There's a new video from Itchy Boots Travel, which is off again. That's worth a look if you're going to have a look. There's also Guy Martin Official. His YouTube channel has also put up a rerun or a republish of his 2008 fastest TT lap, which is worth a look if you want to be on the edge of your seat in a shaky by the end of a video. Anyway, they're the things that sort of took my eye on YouTube today. Take care, everyone. Be kind to each other. I'm out. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit me up on Patreon because that's awesome. Good night.